The other NATO partners also will not allow.
Welcome to the newsroom. I'm Asuma Katauka, and today we are starting from 4 top newses. Let's take a look at Iran first. So for today in Iran, at least 2,400 people have been arrested, killed so far, according to reports from HRANA, as we cannot independently verify such situation in Iran, as Iran does not have any internet connection as well. Now, as this Iran's protests continue into 2 weeks of nationwide unrest, which has threatened the rule of the Islamic regime, as thousands more are said to have been arrested. US President Donald Trump has repeatedly threatened military intervention if security forces kill peaceful protesters. He has also now vowed to take very strong actions if any of the detained protesters are executed. But today we saw one individual in particular, Soleimani, who was on the headlines as his execution has been allegedly planned, but we do not know if his execution has been executed or not. Now, going back to 28th of December, Iranian shopkeepers took to the streets of Tehran to express their anger at another sharp fall in the value of their currency, the Iranian currency called the rial, against the US dollar on the open market. Now, it started from last year on 28th of December. As now we enter the second week, the rial has sunk to a record low over the past year, and inflation has soared to 40%, which has resulted in crippling price rises for everyday items like cooking oil and meat. Also, one thing to notice is that sanctions over Iran has been crippling year after year, and now we are seeing this situation unfold in Iran, as sanctions over Iran's nuclear program last year have squeezed the economy, which was already in a fragile state, which has weakened the government, its mismanagement and corruption. University students then joined the protests, and demonstrations began spreading to other cities. There were wider calls for political change, with crowds frequently heard chanting slogans against the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, in their language. And now moving the focus onto outside, we know that there has been support by Raza Pahlavi. He is the exiled son of Iran's late former Shah, who was in charge of Iran for over 4 decades ago. He is currently in the spotlight, as well as he has become more and more vocal towards his country and against the current regime in Iran. And now, according to US-based Iranian human rights activist news agency, HRANA, protests have been confirmed in 187 cities and towns across Iran, and Iran has 31 provinces, and now it has spread to 187 cities across them. They have also provided an estimate for the total number of people believed to have taken part, although it has said that more than 18,000 protesters have been arrested so far. However, no internet blackout and also no particular respondents are allowed to get in and report from there, so we cannot independently verify these figures. Now, the authorities of Iranian regime have cracked down violently, especially in the past week. A range of weapons, including water cannon, rubber bullets, and live ammunition have all been reportedly used against protesters. As medics said, hospitals were overwhelmed with dead and injured. Now we have a reporter joining us. Her name is Meher Meher Khurana. She's joining us from our newsroom. Meher, what more can you tell us about this unfolding situation in Iran?
Well, yes, Asma, you've mostly covered all of the aspects that are taking place in this situation. Now, the protests on the streets of Iran have intensified day by day, and we have been tracking the developments very closely. Now, a rights group, HRANA, has confirmed that about 2,403 individuals have been killed in the protests so far, and out of which 147 are government related affiliated officials. Now, even though we cannot officially track the death toll as internet is not accessible to the people in Iran, but we do have reports from these rights groups coming in. Now, the internet blackout in Iran has lasted for about 100 hours as of now, which is a long period of time, but there are still a lot of people that are using the Starlink SATCOM system to use internet. Now, in northern Tehran, the IRCG has reportedly conducted house-to-house raids to seize the satellite dishes and SATCOM Starlink terminals as people try to bypass the blackout to send footage of killings abroad, and the footages that we are witnessing are sent through those mediums. Now, experts say that this is an indirect intervention from the United States. Now, Trump has recently posted on his Truth Social account, he said that Iranian patriots are trying to take over the institutions, and he's also promised that the United States is willing to send help, and help is on its way. Now, in fact, Trump has previously also stated on his Truth Social account that he is ready to support the protesters and he stands with the Iranian protesters. Now, the protests on the ground and the streets have hit 31 provinces and 180 cities as of now, and the slogan is clear and it is singular, and it is asking for a regime change. Now, international protests have also been happening, and out of which one highlight came out from London, where a person climbed up the embassy of Iran and removed the flag of Iran and replaced it with the flag of the pre-Islamic revolution. Now, Raza Pahlavi, as you earlier mentioned, son of the previous crown prince who has been in exile, has also been supporting the protesters, and he's also said that he will be returning to Iran very soon. Now, Tehran has issued a stark warning to Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Turkey, and has said that if the US uses bases on their soil to attack Iran, those bases will become Iran's targets. Now, Iran is effectively trying to hold US allies hostage to prevent an American strike that the US has warned for. Now, meanwhile, Russia and Iran are moving ahead with their bilateral agreements despite the global pressure that is growing. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that Moscow will continue working with Tehran to implement agreements reached by their presidents. He added that no third party can change the nature of Russian and Iranian relations, which he said will benefit both countries in the future. Now, Iranians are also fleeing to Turkey with nothing but luggage with them. They are fearing that a US strike will lead to a total state collapse or a wider regional war. Now, shops are also closed in the Grand Bazaar of Iran, and the country is effectively at a standstill that is caught between a state terror and a revolutionary fervor. Now, the world is watching, but for those on the streets of Iran, it is a very tense situation, and the protests are growing day by day, and we are tracking this news very closely, and we will bring you all the developments as and when they take place. Over to you, Asma.
Thank you, Meher, for sharing that. And now, viewers, furthermore, we know that US has allegedly moved some of their personnel from US military bases across Middle East, especially close to Tehran and especially in Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base. And US has reportedly said that this is to countermeasure what Iran has earlier said about Tehran has said that in case US strikes Iran, they will be striking back, not directly at US, but to their bases in around Iran, especially in Middle East. And as Iran's leadership battles wide-scale anti-government protests, Tehran is seeking to deter US President Donald Trump's repeated threats to intervene on behalf of the protesters. Some personnel have been advised to leave the US military's Al Udeid air base in Qatar by tonight. And they have quoted, these media reports have quoted 2 diplomats, but they haven't named them. And Qatar has said that the removal of some personnel from the Al Udeid air base comes in response to the current regional tensions. They have not issued further message about this. Qatar's international media office has also said that Doha continues to implement all necessary measures to safeguard the security and safety of its citizens and residents as a top priority, and said that actions are underway for the protection of critical infrastructure and military facilities. There has been no comment from the US Embassy in Doha for now. Al Udeid is the Middle East's largest US military base that houses about 10,000 American US troops. Last year, more than a week before US launched airstrikes on Iran, some personnel and families were moved off of the US bases in the Middle East after the US attacks in June, and Iran then launched a missile attack on the base in Qatar. The US Embassy in Saudi Arabia also told its personnel to act with caution and avoid military installations. Now, the comments follow US President Donald Trump's threat to intervene militarily in Iran over the bloodshed during nationwide protests. Trump has called on Iranians to take over state institutions, promising that help is on the way. For this, furthermore, we are joined by my colleague and reporter Meher Khurana. Meher, thank you for staying with us. What more can you tell us about the current situation in the Middle East?
Well, yes, Asma, the United States has focused and has shifted to a posture change as it has advised its personnel at the Al Udeid air base in Qatar, and they have asked their personnel to leave by tonight sharply. And this mirrors a lead up from the June strikes in 2025 that took place, and the US is clearing the decks for action. It houses now the air base, it houses 10,000 troops from the United States and is the forward headquarters for all military operations from Kazakhstan to Egypt. Now, diplomats are calling this a posture change from the United States that is coming in, and this is a defensive maneuver according to the officials and diplomats, and this maneuver is trying to minimize casualties on the ground when because US is obviously trying to now Qatar's international media office has said that they have confirmed the movements are in response to the regional tensions and have pivoted to protecting their own critical infrastructure. Now, Tehran has officially notified Saudi Arabia, the United States and Turkey that if a single American jet takes off from a base on their soil to Iran, now that base becomes a legitimate target for the Iranian missiles. Now, there has also been a warning from the advisor of Ayatollah Khamenei, who is the supreme leader of Iran. He's explicitly referred to the June strikes that took place in 2025. On this particular air base, he said that we have done it before and we will do it again. Now, Iran's strategy here, they are trying to leverage US allies to act as a brake on US President Donald Trump's military options. They want Doha, Riyadh and Ankara to pressure United States to stand down. Now, India has also issued an advisory to their people. They've issued that issue says that citizens are advised to flee Iran by all available means. Now, the personnel have been advised to leave Al Udeid by tonight, and once the base is cleared for non-essential staff, the tactical window for US strike obviously opens. Now, direct communication between Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and the United States Special Envoy has been cut off. And this is very important to note. And as diplomacy is dead because that connection is cut off, the military is now in charge of the timeline. And the situation obviously on the ground remains tense, as we just discussed earlier. Over to you, Asuma.
Thank you very much, Meher, for sharing that. Now we move the focus on to Greenland. Now we know that Greenland is under the heat for some time, including as US eyes this situation over Greenland. US has said that USA can only safeguard Greenland against Russia and China, as Trump is insisting. Meanwhile, Donald Trump keeps posting on social media that about Greenland, ramping up pressure on Denmark and Greenland ahead of the talks, which are supposedly soon. In the latest post, he has told Denmark to counter the alleged Russian and Chinese threat to Greenland, only to conclude that only the USA can do this. Trump has also linked to a news story about a Danish intelligence report published last month, which warned that Russia, China, and the United States have diverging interest in the Arctic, but all three countries seek to play a greater role in the region. The report has warned that intensifying great power competition in the Arctic has brought significant international attention to the region, particularly with growing US interest in Greenland and its implication for US security. The report has also warned that while Russia faces some pressure over its involvement in Ukraine and worsening economic outlook, its core capabilities in the Arctic remain largely intact, and it retains the capability to rapidly deploy fighters and bombers to its Arctic bases, which make it capable of striking Western targets across much of the Arctic and the North Atlantic at short notice. So it also has warned that while China currently has no military presence in the Arctic, it aims to develop an independent capability to operate both surface ships and submarines in Arctic waters within 5 to 10 years. Now, Denmark has then today confirmed that they have planned for more permanent, larger military presence in Greenland, and it has also assured that US attack remains unlikely. However, Danish Defense Minister is currently briefing the media on the Danish exercise plans in and around Greenland, and he has largely stuck to what was announced in the original press release, but he has confirmed that there are increasing presence, or they will be increasing the presence in and around the Greenland. Now we move on, and we're joined by Meher for this news. Meher, what more can you tell us about Greenland and the US situation?
Well, yes, Asuma. Now, United States President has very firmly and very swiftly moved his focus from Caracas after capturing Nicolas Maduro. He's swiftly shifted his focus to the Arctic region, and particularly the country of Greenland. Now, the Denmark officials have activated their military personnel and have said that they are increasing the military footprint in the region of Greenland. Now, apart from that, this is not just a symbolic gesture. It includes troops, it includes aircrafts as well as vessels that they will increase in that region. Now, critically, Denmark is not acting alone. It also has support from its NATO allies who are watching the situation very closely. And on the US side, US Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary Marco Rubio are hosting foreign ministers from Denmark and Greenland today. So all eyes are going to be on the United States, and the meeting is officially about the future of the island as tensions are rising in the region because of pressure from the United States. Now, Denmark and Greenland enter the room obviously with seeking reaffirmation of the status quo, while the United States, on the other hand, is pushing for ownership. Now, Trump's latest post on his Truth Social account has stated that he's now moved beyond the idea of a lease or a purchase of the country, and now he's calling for US ownership over the region. He's calling the US ownership vital and stating that anything less is unacceptable to the United States. He claims without evidence that the area is covered with Russian and Chinese ships, and he's effectively told NATO that if the United States doesn't take Greenland, their enemies will. Now, Trump argues that Greenland is a national security priority for the United States, and that is why they are doing all of this. Now, Trump has claimed that the island is full of Russian and Chinese ships, and that Denmark and their military capacity is lacking to defend it. Now, US House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has also explicitly stated that while their goal is to acquire Greenland, now using military and military options are always available to the United States. Now, for the first time, the White House has not ruled out military annexation, and obviously, as we saw in Venezuela, that possibility is always there. Now, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has also warned that any US move against Greenland would represent an attack by a NATO country on a NATO member. Now, why is Greenland so important to the United States? Now, it is more than the land, it is about the strategic jewel. Now, as the Arctic ice melts, new shipping lanes are open, the lanes that China and Russia want to control. Now, it is the country of Greenland is also very rich in rare earth minerals. Now, Greenland holds 25 out of the 34 minerals that are classified as critical by the European Union. Now, untapped oil is also present, which the administration views as very vital for US energy dominance. Now, currently in Greenland, there are 56,000 people living, out of which a lot of people want Greenland to be an independent state. And to note that Greenland is currently under the Danish rule. Now, key players under this situation: Jeff Landry, the governor of Louisiana, who was appointed as the US Special Envoy to Greenland in December 2025, is leading the acquisition talks. Now, Marco Rubio, as the Secretary of State, he is tasked with meeting Danish and Greenlandic officials to clear up the misunderstandings. Apart from that, we've also had comments from US Vice President J.D. Vance last week. He said that Denmark and Europe have not done a good job of securing Greenland, and he's explicitly told European leaders to take the President of United States very seriously, and if they don't do so, then the United States is going to do something about it. Now, this shifts the narrative from a request to buy to a demand for security. Now, recently today, French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has elevated the rhetoric. He's told the parliament that Trump's threats must be taken seriously, and France is now positioning itself as a defender of European territorial integrity. Apart from that, British Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper is currently in Finland and Norway, and her message is also pretty clear. She said that Britain is stepping up on the Arctic security to counter aggression. Apart from that, a joint statement from Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Poland and Spain. These 6 nations have released a joint statement towards US and have said that Europe is united towards Greenland. And apart from that, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has stated that she did agree with Trump on Venezuela, but she does not agree with him on Greenland. Now, this is how the United States has shifted its focus from the Caracas to the Arctic country of Greenland, and we are tracking this news as all eyes are on the United States as these talks are supposed to happen today. Over to you, Asma.
Thank you for the insight, Meher Khurana. Now, viewers, we move the focus on to our last but not least news. It's about our planet. Our planet has reportedly been the hottest, third hottest year. It was last year, 2025. Apparently, world's meteorologists have announced that yes, last year was a 3-year streak of extraordinary global temperatures, during which surface air temperatures averaged 1.48 degrees above the pre-industrial levels. Current rates of heating could breach the Paris Agreement limit of 1.5 degrees, which is measured over 30 years to iron out natural fluctuations before the end of the decade, according to EU's Copernicus Climate Agency. That is more than 10 years sooner than scientists expected when the world leaders signed the pledge in 2015. This is very alarming indeed, and the director of Copernicus Climate Change Service has said that the choice we now have is how to best manage the inevitable overshoot and its consequences. The 8 data sets published today are based on billions of weather measurements from satellites, ships, aircrafts, weather stations across the world, and they were separately compiled by several organizations that monitor the global climate in Europe, the US, Japan, and China, with minor variations in their results. The WMO's consolidated analysis has also found that 2025 was 1.44 degrees hotter than the pre-industrial period, when the large-scale destruction of nature and burning of coal, oil, and gas began in earnest. Now, 6 data sets ranked 2025 as the third hottest year on record, while the other 2 ranked it as the second hottest. The hottest year on record since the mid-19th century is 2024, which was plagued by heat waves and wildfires. As we also remember, it's still fresh on our memories that last year we saw a lot of heat waves, a lot of wildfires, especially through Europe. The Met Office has said natural variation and reductions in heat masking aerosol pollutants have made the last few years extra hot. Now, unnatural heat is largely the result of a blanket of carbon pollution smothering the earth, worsening most weather extremes and jeopardizing the stable conditions in which humanity has thrived. Well, that's all we have for the newsroom live. Thank you for watching and stay tuned on NewsX World.